I've always wanted to make my own hanging chandelier for under my porch, so I headed out to my local dollar store and I picked up some of this plastic garden fence. So I picked up 4 of these plastic fences for $1.75, and next I also took a old tomato cage and I cut off the top portion of it, leaving just the bottom ring. Then I took a piece of off-cut welded wire mesh that I had left over from another project and I cut it to fit inside the ring, and then I just bended the wires around the outside of the tomato cage ring. For these corner areas where it doesn't quite fit, I just took a pair of wire cutters, cut off the excess, and then bend it around the wire so that it's attached to the tomato cage. For my fence pieces, I just broke off the pegs that stick in the ground. Again, this is really lightweight plastic, so it's easy to bend and break off. Then I took my first piece and using some zip ties, I tied it around onto the tomato cage, making sure that the zip ties were pulled nice and tight. And I added zip ties every couple of inches so to make sure that my fence was secure around the tomato cage. I added on another piece of the fence using the guide holes on the fence and clicking it into place. And again, working with more zip ties. I had an opening where the 2 fence pieces didn't quite meet, so I broke off another piece of the fence, worked it in with zip ties, and connected it as well. Once it was all connected and zip tied on, I came in with some Rust-Oleum satin heirloom white paint and I spray painted the whole piece. Once I let it fully dry, I came in with this black wax from Country Chic Paint and added just a bit of dimension so it wasn't so flat, working it in to almost make it look like rusted wrought iron. Then I took these battery operated fairy lights and I worked them around the outside of the chandelier, wrapping them around. This is a wired fairy light, so I could just wrap it and it would stay in place. And then I also took a battery operated puck light and I secured that with zip ties to the top of my wire fence mesh in the middle, so that I have 2 options for lighting when I want to use this chandelier. To add some beauty and a more decorative finish, I took these faux white branches and I worked them around the top of the chandelier, just zip tying them on. Since this is going outside, this greenery is plastic, so it is meant to go outside and it will withstand weather and temperature. So once I had that done, this is my finished chandelier here outside under my porch. It is a covered porch, so I'm not worried too much about the rain. But I really love the beauty and elegance that this chandelier adds to my porch. It is low enough that I can reach from the ground to change the batteries or turn the puck light on and off. But if I was going to hang it in a higher space, I would probably get a puck light or battery lights that can be controlled with a remote. That just makes it easier. But for me, this works for my space and I am so happy with how this project turned out. Thank you so much for tuning into Hometalk, and we'll see you on another video.
Right, so we are going to start our project with these flexible plastic garden fences. I got mine at Dollar Tree. You should only need about 4 of these for this project. And I'm going to start with the first 2. I'm going to start by cutting the bottoms off of this. Just using regular scissors for this part. You want to make sure you're using sharp scissors. These ones are a little dull. So now that I've cut the spikes off, I'm gonna get those out of the way. What we're gonna be doing is we are going to be laying our pieces of garden fence kind of overlapping. So I'm gonna have it overlap about this much. So these 2 pieces are kind of overlapping with the other side. But I'm just gonna cut it and I'm going to secure these 2 pieces together. Now you can use a variety of things for this. I'm going to be using floral wire for this. I'm going to be securing this on 3 points. So I'm probably going to secure it up here and here because I don't want it wiggling too much. So see if you only secure it in one spot, it's really going to be a little harder to work with, especially with what we're going to do for this project. Now what we're going to do is we're going to basically connect these on the same place over here. We still want to maintain that round shape, but we'll get into that in a bit. So yeah, we're going to do the same thing essentially on the other side, and we will be back. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our round piece and we're going to lay it over, because essentially we're going to be using this as our bottom. So yeah, so we're gonna use this over our bottom, kind of best fit and see where we need to cut along the fence here. So I think I'm actually gonna cut right here. So we're gonna set this aside. We're gonna place this over and we are going to work on attaching this top piece to this bottom piece. I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna start in 4 corners and then I'm going to see what other positions need to be added. So now what we're gonna do is we are going to cut off the excess over here. So if you can see, we have a little bit of excess here. I'm gonna flip this over. I'm just gonna make sure I cut off as much of it as I can. There we go. All right, so now we have this round piece finished. We got our base done. So we're gonna move on to our next step, which is creating a top. All right, for this next step, we're gonna take our 4th piece of fence and we are going to essentially be separating it. So I'm gonna cut down the middle first, just to make it a little easier to work with. Okay, so we are gonna start by using this bottom half piece and we're gonna cut the spikes off again, like we did on the last couple of fences for the basket. And so we're gonna keep this side nice and we're gonna cut right above this little guy right here, this little piece. And we're gonna go straight across. Okay, so we have this piece already. I'm gonna put it on to the side so we can work on the other one. For this piece, we are going to cut across, but we are gonna cut across this top part. We're gonna get rid of the little spiky guys and the little hoops. So what we're gonna do for this part is we are just gonna lay them on top of one another and we're just gonna secure them in place with our wire. So pulling out my handy dandy wire again. We're gonna do the same thing we did to secure the other part of our basket. So stay tuned, we will be back when this is all secured together and reinforced with our wire. We're gonna do it exactly the same way. We just want these 2 pieces to stay attached. All right, so this is now secured. So we are going to attach this piece to our lower part with the wire, and then we are going to attach it on the other side. So it's gonna become a basket. All right, so now that this is all attached, we are going to add a coat of some of my Rust-Oleum chalked linen white. You can paint this obviously any color you want, but I wanna give it kind of an aged rustic vibe. So I'm gonna be using a normal brush and probably a foam brush for this step. We're just gonna start applying our paint. And like I said, we want this to kind of look a little rustic, so it doesn't need to be perfectly coated, but we're gonna cover the entire thing and we'll let it dry. All right, so now we've let the paint dry for our basket and I'm gonna add my own little spin to this. So you can stop at this point if you'd like, but I'm going to be adding some twine to my basket in certain areas just to give it like a really nice decorative accent and also to keep the basket in the position that I want it to be. So first I'm going to start with the sides of my handles. But I want to kind of, like I said, reinforce this so it doesn't go anywhere, but also kind of give it like a rustic look. And so I'm probably gonna have to ball up my twine a little bit just so it's easier to work with. Essentially, I'm just gonna try and kind of cover up this area. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep wrapping my twine, so we will be back when we're ready to move on to the next step. So now that I've wrapped the top and the sides with the twine, so we're gonna take this and we are gonna go put it out on my screened-in porch for where it's gonna live.